Let's take a moment to look at the disclaimer. This content is for educational, informational, entertainment purposes only, and nothing should be taken as a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any securities at any time. We're here just to tell you how BTA look at the market, how we analyze the market. This is Rod from BTA, and we are known as the middle traders. Okay, we are looking at a weekly chart of the DIA, the ETF that tracks the Dow Jones Industrial Average. This is the ETF, the DIA. And we're going to do a quick update. It's not going to take long, of our weekly Bollinger Band strategy. Okay, our weekly Bollinger Band strategy, because it has now reset. It has reset. Okay, we got the new setup week. Okay, so next week we'll be seeing if we could get a signal week. Okay, but this week was a setup week. All right, it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but this is an art and not a science. Nothing's going to be perfect in trading. Okay, but let's go through the weekly Bollinger Band strategy real quick. And we got a setup week, and we'll be looking for the signal week next week. So this is the DIA, like I said, the weekly chart of DIA. And here's the Bollinger Bands up top. And as you can see, this week, we have closed below the lower Bollinger Band. Okay, we closed below the lower Bollinger Band. Let me expand this, zoom in rather, so we can see it. All right, we have now closed below the lower Bollinger Band, the red line here. The Bollinger Band is at, the lower Bollinger Band is at 306. We at 298. Okay, we at 298. Now the RSI down here, the RSI, this is our 50 level. This is our 30 level, the oversold level, the green line here. We at 31.09. So we're almost at the 30 level that we needed to get to. Okay, because we want the Bollinger Band, the price bar to be the close below the lower Bollinger Band. And we want the RSI to be below 30 or at 30. It's close. It's at 31.09. That's pretty close. So we're going to give it that. Okay. Now in the stochastic needs to get, we have the bearish crossover. That's great. But it needs to be below 20. It's at 21.5. So it's just a point above. So is the RSI, about a point above. So it's close. But like I said, this is an art, not an exact science. And of course, our MACD is still pushing to the downside, and the histogram is expanding. So the DIA is back in the setup week, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, it's back in the setup week. Maybe next week it'll push a little further into the oversold level if the market continues to trade down. If not, we're going to take this, okay? Because if it bounces off the 30 level and start trending back up, and we get a bullish crossover where the blue line crosses above the red on the stochastic, all right, we're gonna be looking for the signal week, okay? And so we're gonna take this as a setup, okay, a setup week, even though the RSI and the stochastic is about a point above where it really needs to be, okay? Now let's look at the S&P 500. The ETF that tracks the S&P 500 is the SPY. So we got a weekly chart of the SPY here. All right, this is the ETF that tracks the Standard & Poor's 500. Okay, now let's take a look at that. All right, let's zoom in and see how it looks on our Bollinger Band strategy. And guess what? It has a better setup than the DIA. The SPY, the SPY, has a better setup. Here's the lower Bollinger Band right here, right? Here's the price bars for this week. It closed below the red line. It closed below the lower Bollinger Band, all right? The lower Bollinger Band is at 376. The red line here is at 376. We closed at 365, well below. Look at the RSI. The RSI has made it back down to 30. We're at 30.28. Great. Okay, and look at the stochastic here. We got the bearish crossover right here, where the blue line crossed below the red. Okay, we got the bearish crossover right here, where the blue line crossed below the red, and the blue line, the stochastic line, is back below 20. It's at 16.33. 16.33, I'm sorry, 1633. All right. So now, and the MACD has of course, it's still pushing hard to the downside. The MACD line below the signal line, the brown lines below the blue line, and the histograms, it still look like it's expanding to the downside. So we got a setup week on the SPY. All right. And it looks a little better than the DIA. Okay. The Standard & Poor's setup better because the RSI is back to 30 and the stochastic is back below 20. Wonderful. Okay. Wonderful. So that is a good setup. All right. That's almost perfect. All right. Almost perfect. Not quite perfect. Go deep into the oversold and stuff like that would be perfect, but that's good. Okay. It's better than the DIA. So the SPYs is in the setup week also. Okay. Now let's look at the Qs. Okay. And we're going to zoom in a little bit and see how the Qs look. Okay, let's see how the Qs look. And the Qs is pretty much in the setup week also. All right. And it's looking almost as good as the SPY, to be honest with you. Okay. Because look, here's the lower Bollinger Band right here. Here's lower Bollinger Band. And it closed almost right on the lower Bollinger Band, just a little bit below it. Let's see if we could get that price level. The lower Bollinger Band is at 275.46. 275.46. 275.46. All right. Prices closed this week. The price closed at 274. 274.69. So we are below the lower Bollinger Band. That's great. The RSI here is pretty much at 30. It's at 30.08. That's at 30. Okay. And the Qs is we got the bearish crossover here where the blue line crossed below the red. And the blue line is in the oversold level. It's at 14. So this actually looks just as good as the SPY, if not better, because everything is pretty much at oversold. Okay, the RSI is at 30, and the stochastic is below 20, and we close below the lower Bollinger Band. The Qs are perfect. Okay, this is almost a perfect setup. If the RSI could have got completely below 30, that'd have been perfect. But it's almost a perfect setup. So the Qs are looking good. They look good, baby. The Qs are looking great. Okay, for the setup. So the SPY, the Qs are looking better than the DIA, but we're still going to take the DIA as a setup. Let's look at the IWM. What does the IWM look like? The Russell 2000, the ETF that tracks the Russell 2000. The IWM is the ETF that tracks the Russell 2000. What we looking like? Okay, let's zoom in and see. Well, it looks pretty good. The Bollinger, the price, this weekly price bar closed below the lower Bollinger Band. The lower Bollinger Band is at 169. We closed at 165. That's great. The RSI is below 30. It's at 29.15. Well, if the stochastic right here, we got the bearish crossover. If the stochastic would have been below 20, this would have been perfect. But like I told you, it ain't too many things that's perfect in this world. Okay? And so nothing's perfect. We were almost there in the perfect territory. Every now and then we could get perfection, but not this time. All right, so now let's see. So the IWM is still, we're going to take it as a setup. We need the stochastic to get down below 20. We got that bearish crossover. Okay, we got that bearish crossover right here. Okay, where the blue line crossed below the red. That's showing a lot of negative momentum. If we could get down a little bit further into 20, that'd be great. But we are in the oversold territory in the RSI, and we close well below the lower Bollinger Band. So we'll take it. Okay, we're going to take it. It ain't perfect, but we'll take it. Now, let's finish this thing up. Let's finish this thing up right here with the ITOT, baby. The ITOT. This is the one me and my daughter loves to trade. And guess what? You wouldn't believe it. Dang if we ain't get the best for last. How about that? We got perfection, baby. Here it is. Look at that below, that lower Bollinger Band. Price this week closed well below the lower Bollinger Band. The lower Bollinger Band is at 83.60. We closed at 81.30. Check. Okay, look at that RSI. That RSI here, right here, has gotten below 30. Got into the oversold level. It's below 30. It's at 29.57. Check. Oh boy. Here's the stochastic. We got that bearish crossover. The blue line crossed below the red, showing a lot of negative momentum. And guess what? The stochastic line is below 20. It's at 15.64. Check. That one there is looking perfect. I would guess if I had to nitpick, if I had to be a nitpicker, all right? If I just want to be a nitpicker, then I would say I would want to see the signal line, which is the red line, also below 20. But that's not the stochastic slow line. That's the signal line. Okay? And we need the stochastic line to be below 20, and it is. So stop trying to nitpick. This one here gets the big, pretty P for perfect. So that's our Bollinger Band stochastic MACD strategy on the weekly charts. We are back in the setup week. Look, I'm looking for the signal week. If we could get a good signal week that's not that could show us some good volume and breaking above the key moving averages, look, well, I got to take a shot. Okay, because we know that every time in history that this happened and it works out nicely, guess what? We go up. So the weekly Bollinger Band strategy, the update is we're back in the setup week. Next week, we're looking for the signal week. Following week, we'll be trying to get that pivot week. We look for a follow through there if we could get one in between now and then. It's looking kind of grim. It's looking kind of dim, but you never know. That's why you got to stay on the charts. Okay, until next time, y'all. Talk to you later.